in June, when BlackRock announced its filing, or when it was announced that BlackRock had filed for a Bitcoin ETF, the Bitcoin price did shoot up, but has been fairly stable since then. So I do think it's had an impact. A bigger impact this year was the regional bank crisis. It was very interesting to watch Bitcoin go from 19,000 to 30,000 right in the middle of that banking crisis as regional banks were going bankrupt. So it was a flight to safety. So I thought that move was just as interesting.
In a few days, on August 13, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, will be required to give a ruling on ARK Invest's application for a spot Bitcoin exchange-traded fund. The Cathie Wood-owned asset management firm is one of the 9 organizations that have filed applications for a spot Bitcoin ETF. Other hopefuls include BlackRock, the world's largest asset management asset with $9.1 trillion in assets under management, Bitwise, VanEck, and WisdomTree. According to available records, ARK's application for a spot Bitcoin ETF was published in the Federal Register on May 15. 1 month later, a filing in the Federal Register from the SEC designated August 13 as the date by which the regulator will give its verdict on the application, whether to approve, disapprove, or institute proceedings to determine whether to disapprove the proposed rule change to the application. Failing to do that, the SEC can also decide to extend the deadline by a maximum of 240 days. As such, if the SEC fails to either approve ARK's application on Sunday, it would have until January 10, 2024 to give its final verdict. According to ARK Invest founder and chief executive officer, Cathie Wood, there's a very high chance that the commission decides to delay its decision on approving or disapproving her firm's application on Sunday. Wood discusses her thoughts about the application, the coming deadline, and how a spot Bitcoin approval will impact Bitcoin prices in a recent interview with Bloomberg Television. During the interview, Wood points out that the announcement of BlackRock's application for a spot Bitcoin ETF was particularly bullish for the leading crypto asset. When the SEC finally approves one or several of the applications before it, Wood says the news would be even more bullish for Bitcoin. During the live interview, Wood also discusses the changing regulatory dynamics in the United States and Coinbase and Tesla, 2 stocks on which she has been very bullish over the years. We will now bring you clips from the interview. Please watch, share, and smash the like button. Also, ensure you subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications, and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm so our videos can reach more viewers. Thanks and enjoy the video.
Well, if you think about it, Bitcoin serves as 2 kinds of hedges. One is a hedge against inflation and outright confiscation of wealth. The other is against counterparty risk. And, when the regional banks started going down, this fear sort of, our memories are fresh with 0809, the counterparty risk became real. And so there was this flight into Bitcoin, a completely decentralized, transparent network, which is not subject to counterparty risk.
The first important deadline coming up is August 13th, where the ARK filing, the SEC is either going to delay it, which we think they'll probably delay it. What's your take on how this will play out, given you filed earlier?
I think you're probably right that August 13th will come and go, and I think the SEC, if it's going to approve a Bitcoin ETF, will approve more than one at once. So then, again, because most of these essentially will be the same, and it will come down to marketing, communicating the message. We've been putting out our Bitcoin monthly for the last year. We are now starting a Bitcoin brainstorming session. Our first one we launched last Thursday. So we're trying to get the word out there that our research is deep. And we've been doing it since 2015 when we gained our first exposure to GBTC. We were the first public asset manager to gain exposure to Bitcoin at all in 2015. the two other branches of government, the judicial branch and the legislative branch, are giving the SEC pause because the SEC is losing cases in court having to do with its regulations around crypto. That's the first thing. And there are bills that are making their way through the House and are seeing some bipartisan support. So I do believe that Gary Gensler, I guess last week or 10 days ago, said something like, well, you know, I'm not the only one who makes this decision. There are 5 commissioners. Now, of course, we know they're weighted towards the Democrats, 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans. And so one assumes that the way that Gary votes is the way the FCC will vote. But he seemed to be distancing himself a little bit, and so maybe we can take that as a bit of a clue. What I find so interesting still, and this is why we believe that the SEC will lose the Grayscale case, how can you approve a Bitcoin futures ETF and not a Bitcoin ETF? And in fact, if you're really thinking about consumer protection, a futures ETF is swap space. So there's counterparty risk there that you would not have with a Bitcoin ETF, which is backed 1-to-1 with Bitcoin in Coinbase's cold storage. It still confounds me.
Cathie Wood believes the judicial and legislative branches of the United States government are positive influences, likely to reduce regulators' all-out war against the cryptocurrency industry. As such, she is certain the SEC will be pressed to approve some of the spot Bitcoin ETF applications and Ether futures ETF applications before it. Since late July, about a half dozen companies have refiled applications for Ether futures ETF after being previously asked to withdraw their applications by the SEC. The applicants include Volatility Shares, Grayscale, Bitwise, ProShares, and VanEck. According to Blockworks, the companies began refiling for a futures ETF for Ether after the SEC indicated its readiness to consider a futures ETF based on the leading altcoin. Some of these companies also reportedly received calls from SEC staff stating the agency was ready to publicly review their applications. Do you think the SEC is ready to approve these applications anytime soon? And how do you think that will impact crypto prices? Let's know what you think in the comments section below while we bring you clips from Wood's interview as she discusses her outlook on Coinbase and Tesla, 2 companies she clearly favors.
We think that it is the most regulatory compliant exchange out there. And we've been very pleased with how its derivatives exchange in Bermuda has ramped in here. It's very early days, but again, clearly a trusted partner. And we are also seeing that there's more turmoil out there, I guess. Hubei, I think that's how you say the name of the exchange, and Tether and Binance. There are rumblings out there that not is all is well, and so Coinbase is going to be the flight to safety exchange, no doubt about it.
And do you think the surveillance agreements with Coinbase are going to be enough to deal with things like price manipulation in this market? I mean, that's been one of the main concerns from the SEC lawyers with whom we've spoken.
Well, what I find so interesting still, and this is why we believe that the SEC will lose the Grayscale case, how can you approve a Bitcoin futures ETF and not a Bitcoin ETF? And in fact, if you're really thinking about consumer protection, a futures ETF is swap space. So there's counterparty risk there that you would not have with a Bitcoin ETF, which is backed 1-to-1 with Bitcoin in Coinbase's cold storage. It still confounds me. We loved Zach and love Zach and think he will do very well wherever he goes. I know there are rumors out that there are some CEO positions out there which he might like to take. So we will miss him, but his successor has been with Tesla right underneath him since 2018. So he was put through the fires. Remember, in 2018-19, many analysts were saying, that Tesla was going bankrupt. And so he's been there, he's gone through the fire, and it's a tough job. It's a tough job. So I guess 13 years was a really good run for Zach, and can't say enough good things about him and what he did for Tesla. But I think he trained his successor well.
What are your expectations for their growth from here on out?
Well, as you know, we have a 5-year investment time horizon, and we do think the cycle for autos is going to get tougher in here generally. But we think, just like last year when electric vehicles were up 69% or 65%, something like that, and gas-powered vehicles down 7% globally, we think we're going to continue to see that share shift accelerate because electric vehicle prices are going to follow their costs down in a way that gas-powered cars cannot. So we think that electric vehicles will be less expensive, and they are better cars than gas-powered vehicles. So we think they're going to take tremendous share. And even if the auto market relapses in here, which we think it could, we don't think electric vehicles will relapse. So we think the 1.8 million for this year, which was, Elon said 1.8 to 2 million, they're going to have some shutdowns in the third quarter for maintenance and upgrades, and so he lowered his expectation to the lower end of that range. I think he likes to lower expectations and then beat, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's higher than that.
On the issue of spot Bitcoin ETF applications in 2021, digital currency asset management company Grayscale Investments filed to convert its Grayscale Bitcoin Trust into a Bitcoin spot ETF. The SEC rejected the proposal last June, which resulted in a lawsuit, which many, including Cathie Wood, believe the SEC will lose. In March, during hearings on the case, a panel of judges questioned the SEC on why it denied the application, noting that the Commission's concerns about market manipulation did not stop it from approving Bitcoin futures applications. One of the judges said, "It seems like it's fine for an agency to say, okay, we need some more information, but it seems there's quite a bit of information here on how these markets work together, and the SEC has not offered any explanation that the petitioners here are wrong." According to Sam Seif, the Chief Executive Officer of Purpose Investments, which runs the Purpose Bitcoin ETF, a spot Bitcoin ETF that has been trading in Canada since February 2021, the courts will likely force the SEC to provide some much-needed clarity. Seif said, "I think that there's a really important thing because through the regulatory and legal process, they will be forced to actually give very specific reasons and actually back those reasons. If the Commission cannot provide adequate clarity on what's stopping its approval of the applications, then it would have to approve them. This is why Wood is certain that not one but several spot Bitcoin ETF applications will be approved at once." Please share your thoughts, comments, and observations on Wood's Bloomberg interview in the comments section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.